literally the first time we've ever actually started the live stream when the countdown timer went to 0.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Pretty close to 4:05.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
4:07, not bad.
Pretty good.
So we're pretty good. We're pretty good. Hey everybody, I'm Dan Adelko, and this is Live at the Hive, episode 42.
Hi everyone, I'm April.
Hi, I'm David.
And this is David's. I, for some reason, don't know why I thought this, but I did think this. This is David's first live stream. I could have sworn he was already on one. He's only been with us for a few weeks.
I'm an institution already.
One of the, you are. Yeah. You are an institution. You are a pillar of Honey Pot marketing. Yeah. So welcome, David. Why don't you maybe do a brief introduction? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background and what you're working on.
Sure. So I started Honey Pot about 2.5 weeks ago as traffic manager. So my job largely involves managing the traffic of our many clients, making sure that they're getting the bang for their buck out of online spend. Prior to this, I was doing similar roles throughout Kitchener-Waterloo. My passions involve politics and my dog. That's about it. I don't know.
It's good.
Long walks on the beach.
You still got to scooch in a little bit this way. Are we jamming? We got to get different chairs, I think, for this. I think so. All right, so today, thanks a lot for that, David. Yeah. Hey, Angel.
Hey, Angel.
How's it going? And Kristen's here. Kristen has been quarantined this week.
She's not feeling too good.
Yeah. She's under lockdown. She was
so feel contagious.
Better. And there's Lauren, and then there is Neera.
Yeah.
Neera, who has now broken the curse.
Yes.
The Shanker curse is now broken. She was jinxing. What was
Live
it?
At the Hive.
Three
times.
Three times,
maybe
but
two.
a couple of smooth runs there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into it because we're going to really try to stay on point.
Yes.
Let's see if we can do it.
All right.
Typically my fault. So we're gonna start with what's new today. Let's see here. I am just going to cue this guy up. So let's look at our agenda for the day. So the first one here is again, I think this is part of the ongoing not death of the news feed, but the news feed is leveling off in terms of viewership, and stories are increasing. So Smirnoff is doubling down and spending more on Instagram stories.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love stories. I actually love watching stories more than I do like scrolling through my news feeds. I just find them a lot more interactive.
Yeah, and it's more of like a kind of intimate interaction, right? Like somebody sharing a moment that they otherwise wouldn't put out to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a dual. There's like a dual strategy with social and content, and the news feed versus the story, especially for businesses. It's a really good way, large or small, to personalize yourself and have fun and connect with people. Using the animations and the polls and the sliders. It's got a lot of cool, fun things in there, whether it's a boomerang or something.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So obviously it's working because if Smirnoff is going to, really increase the spend on their story strategy, it's probably a wise idea to do the same thing for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least double down on using stories on a regular basis as part of your content strategy, because you will get that engagement for sure. Very cool. Very cool.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make an interesting note in there about the change in price. So starting in January, when it was sort of a newer product and people were engaging with it more just out of notoriety, it was a lot cheaper per click to have a story ad.
Yep.
Now it's starting to come up to about $1 CPC. It mentions in the article. So if you're going to get in, like, now is sort of the time to do it before like every other ad source, it just becomes expensive.
Yeah. No, exactly, and makes a really good case for being ahead of the curve. Yeah. Trying new offerings, you will get a lower CPC. You'll get a better rate, and you'll be. One of the things is kind of being first to market on a lot of these things, whether it's a platform. I know Gary Vee talks about this a lot, but it's true. If you're one of the first adopters of, say, Snap, or there's lots of them. One was called Snow. It was popular for a while. I don't know if it's still even relevant or not.
I'm not familiar with it.
I'm not.
Yeah, see?
I don't know.
But you know what? Why not try that? Try the new ad formats. Try the new platforms. Get out there for sure. Another interesting comment in here is they're at the point now, Smirnoff is at the point where this is no longer a test for them. They've already seen the adoption rate, and they've seen that it's very, very effective. So again, I think, I know a lot of times in B2B our B2B clients will say, not Instagram. We really want to counter that notion because you have a lot of different interesting flexibility.
Yeah.
And having an effective content strategy and paid strategy on an Instagram for B2B, hugely effective way to connect with your potential leads and customers.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, and again, a chance to just sort of be an innovator, right? If other B2B partners, other B2B firms aren't going out into Instagram stories, you can sort of be the one that, catches the eye.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing too is, and we won't get into which side of the political spectrum you're on, but David does have some experience in promoting in the world of politics. But if you're a politician or a public figure, stories are a great way to really personalize a message to kind of connect and get a message out. Well, and obviously, the world of politics in the United States, certainly Twitter's a place to be.
Yeah, I think we can both think of examples on both ends of the political spectrum of politicians using it really effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So very cool. So next up, and this one's pretty interesting. Pardon me. So we've talked about this quite a bit. Google AMP and Facebook Instant Articles, effectively the same thing for different platforms, but people are starting to question the benefits a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reason is that what they found was, with all the hype and promise of AMP delivering more viewers of content and more quickly, they're actually seeing is that it's not having the intended effect. The speed increase is not increasing the amount of traffic that's coming into those pages. And they're questioning the page load time notion that Google is saying how many people you lose on a slow page load. They're not seeing that. And from a publisher's perspective, and we've run into this in our recent past, is that the limitations on sorry, got the headphones over there. The limitations on the ad formats that are available on AMP are actually cutting into their revenues. Because it can only show a very limited number of ads in that. And this is actually from your recent past, I guess.
Yeah, so I had a bit of experience with this at a previous employer in the area through digital publishing, where we made the jump into AMP. Unfortunately, a lot of our ad formats stuck. But you hear stories of some of the more pop-up ad formats, certain display formats, native things like that, where some networks are being almost predatorily picked on by Google in AMP and excluded. And it's where you cross that weird line from when are you trying to help the user's experience and when are you actually just doing it for your own gain? When is Google sort of breaking antitrust laws, right?
Yeah.
Maybe all over the place.
Who knows?
It's a thing when you're a behemoth like that. I mean, I think for sure it's in Google's best interest to have the AMP infrastructure hosting everybody's content.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
For sure. And again, Google never loses on the ad game, right? They're grabbing 50% of every dollar that comes out of that engine.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously that's reflected. It's interesting to see, though, that some of the claims are actually being countered with real life data, right? And the real life data that's interesting is, and even the publishers that they're discussing this are, there's no clear evidence that AMP is boosting traffic. There's buzz that was going to actually boost it, and your traffic would go way up, but they didn't actually see that, and they saw the revenue go down.
I think the only way that it would go up is if users were actually just actively searching more pages.
Right.
Because you're not going to get a competitive edge over everyone else who's using AMP, right? It's not like people are going to start turning to you more because you have it if it becomes sort of a necessity.
Yeah. So, and this can really hurt the publishing sector, right? So there's a tweet there from Tyler Love from Bustle Digital Group. They have bustle.com if you've seen it. It's like a TMZ style site. And yeah, people are disabling AMP and just kind of getting rid of it and sticking with it. Now, maybe AMP needs another iteration because, in order to display some of the richer media and give the options and things like that. But we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, let's see here. We should cover doggos every week.
Those are cute.
Doggos.
It seemed to get the chat going
Yeah,
in the comments. That's
really
for
like
sure.
Everyone loves dogs.
Everyone
Danger
loves.
noodles.
Yeah, the danger.
Snakes.
I like the danger horse.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's a white tiger. It's a danger horse.
Love it.
So next up is some news from a very oddly redesigned WordStream, or word tracker, sorry.
Yeah, the text is strange.
The text is
The
really,
font is
I don't
Very
know why.
funky. Yeah, it's
And
hard to read.
And it's not just me, I know that.
No, I can. It's the same on
You
my
getting the
screen.
same?
It's let's just zoom in over here a little bit. If you zoom in a bit more, you can kind of see that. Liz.
There you go. Let me
There you
just
go.
see here. I'm going to zoom in. There we go. Okay.
Hi, Liz.
Hello, Liz.
Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, welcome. So this one here is, so every year Google releases their search quality evaluator guidelines. It's actually like a 185-page document. So just for a little bit of context, the myth is that the Google is an unmanned or unpersoned, whatever, unattended algorithm. That's actually not true. Google has a massive team of search evaluators, and they manually review sites, adjust rankings, adjust spam scores, all of that. And inside of this the latest document is EAT, expertise, authority, and trust.
Yeah. Yeah, so it basically goes over that those are sort of the three things that Google is having their raters look for when deciding the legitimacy of a page, ultimately, or a site, or even an author. So if you're somebody who, is developing your brand across LinkedIn, across, sponsored posts or guest posts on different sites, you really want to make sure that they're on legitimate sites, so you're not winding up on some of the more fraudulent ones.
Exactly.
Because you could wind up actually hurting your own personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a notion in here that they're talking about that Google uses, which they call MC, and that's main content. That's the content on your site. So, for example, the example of an MC on a YouTube page is the video,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, when you're creating content on your site, I think the important thing is to, one, really focus on your MC, your main content. What is the focus of that page?
Yeah.
And this is a great article. We can throw this in the comments probably.
I'll
I think
throw that
April can
down.
throw that in there. It's definitely worth the time to dig into.
Great. Yeah, it's a great read.
Yeah.
There you go. And I've just pasted that there in the comments
Yep.
for you guys. Take a look.
So, for example, the authority of both an author and a website. Right? So you want to build trust at the author level, the page level, and then the domain level.
Yeah. Sort of adding priority to, certifications as well, and proving you have a degree, or if your website proving that you're, optimized to certain things, or that you have, those security seals if you're handling money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that
Yeah,
makes
so,
sense.
and that's actually trust, that example there. So make sure that your site has an SSL certificate. For example, there's a type of SSL certificate called an EV certificate. It's called extended verification. And what they do, we just registered a bunch of these last week. They give you a call. It's like a 20-minute interview. They get your incorporation papers. They check to see that your office is really there. Right?
Legit.
It's
no
legit.
Yeah.
And when you have an EV certificate, you then get that extended level of an SSL certificate, which is the full green bar. For example, on Word Tracker here, you'll see that there's it just says secure.
Yeah.
With an EV certificate, the green bar is about 3 times as long, and it actually tells you where it's secured, and it's a better trust symbol. But in this perspective, it's a stronger signal of trust would be an extended verification certificate versus a Let's Encrypt free certificate, for example, that you can go and pick up. So definitely something to take into account. Now, reputation is a little bit vague in Google's world, like a lot of their signals are.
Yeah.
But again, it's things like engagement on a page. How many comments do you have, right? If it's a blog page, for example, if it's a YouTube video page, again, the comments that are added to it. If you're on an e-commerce product
reviews,
page,
yeah.
you're all of your
Reviews,
reviews. So you want to. Sorry, I totally just.
No, it makes sense.
It's end of day Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the number of reviews. So if you have an e-commerce site, continually try to get those reviews from your customers, right?
Yeah.
Follow up 7 days after a purchase. Set up a simple survey for them with
Yeah.
some kind of a benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's also a mention of it's the sites that are linking to you as well. So it almost seems like they're comparing trust to being the human version of like a domain rank.
Yep.
That we'd be familiar with backlinking and things, right?
Yeah. So, without going too deeply into it, and somehow we will get the link for the search evaluator guidelines. If you're in the industry and you're doing this type of work, it is definitely, that's your manual.
Yeah.
That's like for content creators, and if you're doing content marketing, which we are going to dive into a little bit in the next What's New, you definitely want to know what Google's looking for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's a handy way to certainly.
For sure.
Well, they're telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we'll get into this a little bit with Facebook as well, but I feel like this is Google's attempt to sort of self-regulate in a sense, right?
Yep.
The big tech companies have been taking a lot of heat for, whether they're allowing content that's spreading false truths or fake news, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is just their attempt to kind of clean it up while still working within like an algorithm framework.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. So the Google search evaluators have been around for about 7 or 8 years now. That team, and they were brought on during the heavy days of link spamming before Panda and Penguin came out, when PBNs were all the rage, personal blog networks, which are just basically scams of people setting up farms to gain authority.
How developers got paid.
That's right.
Back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. But what they've done with the search quality evaluators is add the human element into the algorithm. And this is actually what Facebook learned kind of the hard way, is algorithms have to be checked by humans.
Yes.
They can't run on crazy. And you see actually examples of AI very recently that gone unchecked kind of goes a little screwy.
Yeah.
Which is why Elon Musk is warning about the end of the world.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah. Always have a kill switch.
always have the
Always have a
switch.
kill switch.
Hey, we've got Cedar Newell. Hey, Cedar. And Scott Amos probably got his feet up on the boat, don't you, buddy? As per. Anyhow, moving on to our next thing. So, yeah, we will find the link to the Google Search Evaluator Guidelines, and we'll pop them up there as well. So, in other news, Facebook has cut more targeting options.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go back.
Now, what this is the ability to add certain terms, and a lot of them they're saying here they're exclusion terms, definitely based on ethnicity, religion, race, ethnicity, things like Hispanic, for example. And we were talking about this a little earlier before we started. It's there was examples during the 2016 election and shortly after, just inciting divisiveness. So these Russian trolls would go in and create fake Facebook pages, and they had an event for alt-right, and they targeted it towards the alt-right. And then they targeted it towards people that supported things like Black Lives Matter, BLM. And they would get a counter, like none of it was real. They created it and
fake,
they did it across the street. And using these kinds of targeting options, they were able to. Andrew's got some. Andrew's the source here. Let's read Andrew's comment. The article suggests Google uses some machine learning in conjunction with human raters. Have you guys ever heard or noticed of any issues with human bias? Yes. Yes. That is absolutely the case, both with paid and organic. They definitely have different categories of what is correct. So we do a lot of work in the legal sports betting space, which is legal in 95, well, how big is, I don't know what percentage of the world the United States makes up, but in almost every country in the world except for the United States, online sports betting, casino, poker, horses is totally legal. If you've ever been in the UK, on every corner there is an off-track betting shop. But yes, you see the human ratings definitely show a bias against certain things that are not violating the terms, but are in the gray area that semi-approach it.
it's
Yeah.
one of those weird cases where even in today's times, a bit of friendliness goes a long way. Like when you're calling a rep from Google or Facebook, whoever else, if it's something that's in the gray, giving them an easier time, not yelling, etc.
Yeah,
Right? Really
definitely
can help you get it across the line.
Yeah. Well, one of the and Andrew's got a follow-up comment there. It's a challenge that Facebook and other companies are facing because nobody can be 100% unbiased. That's absolutely true.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And that's I think the challenge for Google and for Facebook. I also read another story about, it was a Medium article that he was an engineer in Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah.
And having dinner with one of his friends who was an early Google employee.
Right.
And he asked the question, like, we know Google's got information on us, right? But it's okay. And the engineers that works at Google, and it was a very early on engineer, like sub 100 employees, said, no, you should be absolutely terrified what we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So world's largest database, the US government takes Google to court to try to get information out of there,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of info in there, and yes, algorithmically, you can't just let the algorithm determine. You need human intervention. So therefore, by default, you're going to get human biases
For
that
sure.
work their way in.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the solutions to it is not having one evaluator, but a group.
That
So you
makes
get
sense.
a more statistically relevant.
More balanced.
Yeah, more balanced, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, and the big criticism, for example, with Twitter is, and right, wrong, or indifferent, Twitter. Jack Dorsey has come out and said Twitter is obviously they're in the heart of San Francisco, so they're a left-leaning organization. Therefore, they have had incidences in the past where their human evaluation team for banning has gone
a little rogue.
on to the right. So it kind of is what it is.
Yep.
But I think the way to solve it is very much like a Wikipedia style,
Yeah.
where when you have enough people, you eventually can conform biases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and being able to, it comes all the way back to hiring, right? Making sure you're hiring out any biases,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But yeah, you can sort of see where they're trying to eventually get to the point where a machine can do it without bias. That's why they have thousands of people for raters on Google and Facebook approval teams and stuff, because ideally they want to be able to use a neural network to figure out how they think and then apply it.
But that's when the
automatically.
machines become self-aware, and I'm not looking forward to that day.
That's a little
I
creepy.
am not looking forward to that day.
Conversation for another time.
Yes. Well, I can show the Boston Dynamics video, which is always one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Great.
the robot jumping.
The robot jumping
I
over
like
the
it.
thing and running and sprinting and
yeah,
put
it's
a
cool.
machine gun in its hands and wait till
Well,
it turns,
Okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe
and
I
then it
don't
won't
like
be so funny.
I thought it was cute, but
But back to the Facebook article, one line
Yep.
that kind of struck me was it says, and I quote, Gen Zers, more than any other generation, also don't mind seeing ads and learning how their products, I'm jumping to the wrong thing. They'll be using machine learning to identify discriminatory ads before they run.
Look at this guy. I just noticed something.
Which to me as the
He's
traffic
smart enough.
manager makes me think, I'm going to get flagged for things that I've done right and then have to call Facebook about it. Like it's sort of, it's an unintended consequence of cleaning up
Yeah.
the system.
Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah, definitely.
And the policy teams, like, for example, Google has always had what I call a very zealous policy team, and within the organization, the policy team kind of runs independently of anybody else and without anybody else's control. So the policy team can make a lot of decisions, both with the search quality and the rankings, but with your ad campaigns as well. And once you get strikes on those accounts and against your site, we've cleaned up a number of very spammy sites in the past, like really spammy, like very bad. And it the longest one took us 10 months of constant, like just absolute white hat restructuring to clean it up. And we were successful in doing that. But again, you have to speak to the policy team. You have to speak to the quality evaluators. You have to let them review it in a manual queue. And it can take up to 10 days for that evaluation to take place. And they dig into the code on the site. They dig into everything. So, lots of stuff there. But the 5,000 targeting options, I think, in a sense, like it's good. I mean, there were so many targeting options on Facebook at that point. Like, you could literally, and they were marrying up, mortgage information. So, they would
Very
match up your
specific.
credit history. So you could, so you were able to go and so if, I mean, not that payday loans are allowed, but high interest banks were able to target ads to people that would have a lower credit score and take advantage.
Yeah.
You know, there's all sorts of questions around, is that ethical?
Yeah, the
Even
ethics
Apple
around
had,
that.
sorry, I was gonna say even Apple has an intellectual property around the same thing of looking at your bank accounts, right, and figuring out how much you have and when your payday is.
Yeah.
To target ads based on when you're most likely to spend.
Yeah, that's a little, I think that's probably pushing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
just
little bit,
slightly.
you know,
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
anyhow, that is the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving right along, this one's a good one. I really kind of enjoyed this article when I ran into it this morning. I just got to scroll up. I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but I did it. Okay, so Content Marketing Institute, great website, especially if you're in content marketing or you want to learn about it. Definitely worth checking out.
Cool.
So this is kind of amusing. For a very long time, LinkedIn did not rank for the term LinkedIn marketing.
Just kind of sad.
It's a little on the sad side,
Yeah, a
for
little
sure.
bit. A little bit.
So if we search for it now, there we go.
There we are.
So this is actually a really nice search result, and it actually talks a lot, like it speaks to a lot of the things that we talk about in terms of crafting a search and SEO strategy and how to really take advantage of the features. So a bunch of things happening here. The first one, David.
Sorry, where
Oh, you can't see it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't
I'm
see the
sorry.
result.
Be on the spot. Branded ad. They have their branded.
Yeah, so they ran an ad for themselves, largely to take up more of that above the fold
I
search
thought you
result.
had it over there.
Yeah, sorry, we were still looking at the
Putting him
article.
on the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, a very smart strategy we've done with a couple of clients. The idea being that, well, A, it's sort of competitively, you scare off competitors from trying to outbid you for your own terms.
Right.
Yep.
And B, you can sort of present whatever content you want to the searcher at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're ranking for, let's say, your homepage, maybe you bring them to something a bit further down the funnel, you bring them to like a guide or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's an important component of an omni-channel strategy. Is your brand is always going to be the bottom of the funnel. When people are searching for your brand name, they're probably getting close. They're either evaluating or getting close to value, especially multiple visits, and then direct traffic as well. So it's important not to exclude that from your mix.
Yeah.
The other thing that they have in there is a very nice extended featured snippet, which has their images, because again, you're also seeing quite a bit of their content, which is what we're going to dive into. Then they have their marketing solutions, and then they got their beautiful Twitter carousel.
Yeah.
So you can see that they own
Yep.
their which is good, because I mean, effectively LinkedIn is a marketing venue.
For sure. Yeah.
So the interesting part about this story that I really liked was how they used, they call it, we all have different names for exactly the same thing. What do we call ours?
Call her what, sorry?
Big Rock content, sorry. Ours is Anchor.
Right.
We
Oh,
use
yeah.
Anchor, they use
Yeah.
Big Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Technically Big Rocks can be anchors.
But yeah, the big piece of content that
Big-
you're using
yeah.
in an omni-channel strategy.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, that's the second
It's a broken
time.
telephone a little
The
bit.
second time I'm like springing stuff on everybody without proper context. Perfect.
I like the guessing game. It's cool.
The guessing game is fun.
It's a good game.
It's fun. That's okay. It's all casual here. So what they did was they started out their content strategy by deciding on one piece of Anchor, Big Rock, cornerstone content and really dive in. And we talk a lot about this with our clients as well. This one is the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, which I think everybody's, well, if you're in marketing, you're probably familiar with
Browsed
it.
at least,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a look.
Yeah, it's similar to like the search ranking factors for SEO mods, right? Like they kind of brought a lot of their strategy around that.
Yep.
People like wait on bated breath for the release of it.
Absolutely,
Yeah. For
sure.
absolutely, yeah. So they started with one piece of this anchor content, right? And they really turned it into a formula you can see here. So they had the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Thought Leadership, Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Content Marketing, and the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Global Marketing. And then what they did was they started remixing that content. So you take all of your efforts and put it into a epic piece of content that's going to be very useful. There's lots of other examples of it. Webinars can be epic content because it can be an hour,
Yep.
hour and a half,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And a big investment.
Yeah.
Ebooks, really serious in-depth case studies, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But then the important thing about what they did was they started remixing it, taking it, and then instead of saying, okay, there's our big piece of content, but turned around and started to remix and repurpose it for the channel.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you see that done a lot with, like you mentioned, videos, right? You just sort of take a snippet of a longer
Yeah, so
piece.
take a piece of your webinar and highlight the important bits.
Yeah, exactly.
Create a blog series. So if you have a piece of cornerstone content or anchor content, you can break it up into a blog preview series that breaks it down into bullets, right?
Yeah.
Then you can create snackable content from that for social
Yeah.
using the short video snippets,
Yeah,
pieces
that's
from
great.
that, and then feeding it out that way. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. They also created a podcast, and this was over a period of I think 5 years.
Yeah, it's the long game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a long game and an investment. We were actually talking about when LinkedIn was bought by Microsoft and then the redesign.
Yeah.
There was kind of darker days.
Yeah. For LinkedIn.
Yeah.
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 Their algorithm went nuts, and I think for about 3 months it was a lot of spam. At least that's what I was seeing.
Yeah. I saw that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've ironed out a lot of the kinks, and Sales Navigator, for example, is a fantastic tool. Like I can't speak more highly of it. If you're in sales or marketing or B2B, you need to have Sales Navigator and invest in it because
Yeah.
it gives you such a benefit. So then what they did, oops.
See, it's coming back.
Where'd it go? I lost it. Oh no, there it is.
There we go.
Okay, so then they turned their marketing solutions blog into an 80-page print and digital magazine, which is actually kind of genius. Just lay it out, turn it into an
Yeah.
actual magazine.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
great.
I've got something. Hold on one sec.
All right.
There's another example of doing this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what Dan brings as a surprise.
Piece of printed material.
Piece of print, probably. Yes.
Well,
Let's see. There it is.
you know, I think this breaks down some of the notions a little bit from the B2B side that it's like digital versus print. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
at all. So this is ClickFunnels. You can see that there.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is he's got, Russell Brunson has a product called Funnel University. So ClickFunnels is the platform that they're selling, very similar to Unbounce, but much more funnel based.
Yeah.
And then they take the content from the videos that they shoot and they print up, here,
I've got it.
thanks.
Everyone take one and pass it down. Yeah.
So you can see that they give examples of different funnels, and this is delivered, I think, once a month. We
Nice.
get an episode, so you see what's working for other people.
It's cool. It's almost like
That's
a comic
great.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see that. I don't know if you can tell there, but you know, it's nice, but
nice,
it's certainly
yeah.
not overdone.
The layout's really clean. So
Yep.
it's nice to
And then they have the larger version as well,
Ooh,
right?
Very nice. Here you
So,
are.
but this is all content taken from webinars and case studies
great.
and featuring their customers.
Yeah.
Hillary's saying, she's loving the Blog Goes magazine trends. It's a great idea. Like you've
It is.
already invested in the content.
Yeah.
So with some layout and design work, you've got a print piece that you can send to your
Yeah.
customers, and
And they'll remember and keep it, right?
Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of this stuff is about, and that's what this LinkedIn article is about, is really, from a marketing perspective, is maximizing your investment, right?
Yeah.
You know, the more that you can reuse the content that you've already invested in,
Right.
Yeah.
your ROI is going to be that much better.
Yeah, it becomes
sure.
low hanging fruit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That was great.
Exactly. So moving right along, then what did they do?
It's
They
brilliant.
created sessions and master classes for LinkedIn marketing. And then they were also willing to get ideas from everywhere, and then a video series that was kind of in the raw. So the thing I really like about this marketing strategy, one, hugely effective for LinkedIn. I think I saw in there 147% increase.
Wow.
For LinkedIn,
That's huge.
those are big
yeah.
numbers.
That's,
Yeah.
That's big, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you're going from 200 to 300 page views a day.
Right.
It's like you're going from 2 million to 3.5
Yeah.
million.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking their customer persona too is likely, in this case, they're trying to catch somebody who doesn't do marketing day to day, who they want to enable them to spend on the LinkedIn platform and not necessarily go to an agency, unfortunately, and then spend their money on whatever they suggest, right? They want to kind of cut them off at the pass.
Oh, very cool. And the one thing I just noticed in here is the team uses Vidyard, a local startup, to host the videos that they created, track the results, and then publish them from Vidyard, because there's a one push publish, over to YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, and so highly effective.
Did it say? I think it said in there they generated 12,000 videos.
Wow, that's quite a
Really?
number.
Oh, total video views.
Yeah, total
Makes a
video
bit more
views.
sense.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite a big
Yeah.
number. Yeah.
And the one quote that I like about this, just wrapping this up as we move into the account, what we're going to talk about, which is account-based marketing and B2B, I do like this quote a lot, is engaging an audience is now a form of transaction.
Right.
And it really is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's part of the overall transaction, and the exchange of money at some point is the end of that.
Yeah.
But the consumption of the content is the beginning of that. And,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to do that in order. Hey, Katie's watching.
Hey,
Hey, girl.
Katie. Hey, girl. Hey.
Yeah. So the lot of lessons to be taken from this. Maybe do you have the link handy?
Yes.
April's manning our comment stream today.
I will do that. For
Cool.
you. I'll send it in the
Okay.
link for you guys.
So as a little bit of a segue from talking about how LinkedIn won back, a very important search term, and just not just search term, but just the whole positioning of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? It had to be a little embarrassing for LinkedIn not to rank for things like LinkedIn marketing
Yeah.
and
just
letting
like-
other
just a
people
little bit.
eat their
Yeah.
lunch, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, moving over, we want to talk a little bit today about account-based marketing and what that is
Yeah.
and what it means for the B2B space. I won't put anybody on the spot because I've done it twice already.
Oh, no.
What's ABM?
I don't know. Account-based marketing.
So what ABM is the notion, a couple of notions. There's a couple of fundamental philosophies. One is, especially in the B2B space, casting a wide net is not effective, right?
Yeah. No.
Correct. Yeah.
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 You're going to spend a ton. You're going to annoy people.
Yeah.
That
And
don't-
maybe get like not very realistic numbers that maybe you so hoped to get. By casting I think a big net, you're just gonna you're missing all the opportunities to capture somebody who is really invested in your product or brand.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And what ABM does is it believes in hyper targeting and personalizing the experience along from the sales and the marketing into the sales funnel, working hand in hand.
Yeah.
So hyper-personalization is really understanding who are your key contacts at the company and developing a company-wide relationship.
Yeah.
Developing
Right.
a relationship, I think, is very crucial and important, and it's a big part of account-based marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about building that relationship, because if you have a product that has an 8 to 12 month close cycle, for
Yeah.
example, if it's a high-priced product,
Yeah.
or if it's a B2B product and maybe it's an internal product, there's a lot of consideration that goes into that from a buyer's perspective.
Yeah.
And also, they are always purchased by committee.
Yeah. For
Right.
sure.
There's not one person that will say, pull the trigger on a new recurring payment system, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one way that it becomes very much a transaction-based relationship, like you said, is that
Yeah.
you have to, at each step when you're trying to get them to consider your B2B offering,
Yeah.
there's a lot of work that's put in by that committee, right? A lot of
Yeah,
hours
for
spent.
sure.
Yeah.
So they definitely, there's a cost there, and they need to make sure that they're going to get a return.
Yeah. And so what we're showing, oh, no, we're not. I lied. Now what we're
there we
showing. Now what we're showing, there's a couple of different options if you're in the B2B space or if you're thinking about this. One is Drift, higher price point, more complicated, requires a full team to be fully engaged in how this product works, because it has quite a few features.
Yeah.
And then there's another one called Lead Feeder, sorry. I keep calling it Leads Feeder, and that's not accurate. But Lead Feeder, we actually use Lead Feeder here, and we also we actually use Drift as well. Just got to know, you got to know what these things are.
Compare them.
Yeah, gotta compare.
Yeah. So what happens is we get a hyper-targeted group of qualified leads, companies, and individuals. And what we want to do is use content and use also the human beings involved with the process to engage with specific people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Basically treating them like a VIP.
Yeah.
And giving them sort of curated content to what they specifically want to know, right?
Yeah,
So going
what they're
back to
engaged in.
going back to personas, you don't want to send the CFO the same thing that you're sending the CMO, right?
Yeah,
if they're both involved in that process.
Exactly right. And you also, by customizing and hyper-personalizing the messaging, that's a great example. The CMO or the VP of marketing or the director of marketing they have their own interests. They have to hit their ROI, their marketing targets. But the CTO will have technical targets, and the platform has to work or whatever it might be. So you want to have a message match, right?
Yeah.
The last thing you want is to have marketing going through their 99% decision made, and then you're going back to step one. Hi, Jan Kulb.
Hello.
Wow, he says.
Wow for wow.
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 We wowed him. Yeah.
We wowed you.
Well,
that's
we're
good.
glad.
We're glad you're wowed.
Yeah.
Well, welcome aboard. You don't want to get through 99% of the decision-making process, and then you have to start at square one with, say, the finance team or the IT or dev team.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of have those things happening on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
So what Drift will allow you to do is actually you can identify companies and individuals when they visit the website, and you would see a running stream of these individuals.
Right.
What Drift allows you to do, and you can see the example right here, is DriftBot is the use of bots to help engage with the leads as they come in, and you can personalize it based on an individual, right?
Yeah.
And they in Drift, what they're called are playbooks, and what you're then able to do is create a playbook or basically a funnel of conversation, and they can choose their own adventure here. You can see, I don't know if you can see it very well, especially if you're on mobile, but the little Drift bot here asks a question. Sure, you're getting great traffic, but how's your conversion? And do you want to learn more about how we can increase your conversions? Definitely, or just browsing.
Yeah.
Will again start to pre-qualify.
Yeah.
You start to see that.
Exactly.
And the more that you know about this, the different playbooks you can put together to customize that message. And that's really at the heart of account-based marketing, right? What we've done is we have a playbook of our own that we found to be very, very effective. It's non-obvious a little bit, but by the use of smart remarketing and retargeting rules, and we're getting more and more sophisticated as we roll through the strategy, is with B2B marketing, it's often you can't close it faster disproportionately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't speed up the cycle.
No.
Yeah. And you risk losing and tainting that relationship should you push too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go straight to booking a meeting.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Or book a demo. So for example, one of the key things in the B2B world is really it's the obvious one, it's either the webinar is actually a sales webinar, and people know this if you're in B2B, and the book a demo is a sales call.
Yeah.
Right? It's less a demo that you can try to close. So there's a certain hesitation, I think, in the B2B world on that. But one of the things that we do is, based on certain areas that are visited, we deliver display network ads, pre-rolls, LinkedIn ads, just to keep awareness. It's like a branding campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And then going back to just anchor content, right? You can sort of give them pieces of what you've built at the appropriate times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ABM is a big buzzword right now, and it has been for a while. And I think the question is if, and this isn't a critique of anybody, but if you asked 100 people in the B2B space what ABM is, you'd probably get 80 different answers. And it's important because there are tools that make this stuff happen. right?
Yeah.
Not only Drift, Drift is a great tool. It also has meeting setting and scheduling. Maybe this is a shameless plug to get some Drift love.
Yeah. No.
And you can also understand through this great reporting, right? But there are tools, and you use this in conjunction with the paid campaign platforms available.
Yeah.
You know, we're just talking about Instagram stories. So if you've got a lead and you can target that lead and you know that you're going to be able to be visible to them because they're in one of your custom audiences, for example, on Facebook, them seeing your brand engaging on Instagram is another touch point in that series of awareness for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So you stay top of mind. Neera Shankar, ABM, always be marketing. Ooh, nice one. Glenn Ross. ABC. Have you ever seen that famous Alec Baldwin speech?
No, actually.
Oh, come on now. You haven't seen the
Years
Glenn
ago.
Ross?
No,
A long
I don't
time
think
ago,
I have.
I did.
Oh my goodness, really?
sorry,
I
no.
think this deserves it being thrown up as a send-off at the end of the stream.
All right.
So, yeah.
Really?
well,
Yeah, let's do it.
okay, just give me a sec. Let's just look at Lead Feeder.
Yeah.
Now, Lead Feeder is very cool. We're trialing it right now. Some interesting takes on it. Definitely, so you can see here, this is plugged into our website, and you see that Regis visited our website. You get their contact information, you get all of their social,
Yeah.
and you get this handy dandy list of all of the key people
Yeah.
that are there. And you'll see if they have LinkedIn contacts, so you can also add them to your Sales Navigator. So you can, where this works in with Sales Navigator is in Sales Navigator, you can actually follow this and create a custom feed of individuals that you want to follow.
Yeah.
And then what you can do, and use it with discretion. Don't like and comment on absolutely everything one of your leads is doing.
Yeah.
No, that's weird.
But what you will be able to see is a custom stream of their activity.
Yeah.
And if something great, they win an award, just congratulate them, right? Like their, every other or a few.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's like Twitter lists, right? You can sort of just get a scope of what they're all talking about too, right?
Yeah, and this will help you build it. You also can sometimes find other alternate relationships that you might need to take into account in your ABM strategy, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to connect with the CTO.
Yeah.
Or open a conversation with the right type of content, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Very handy. And then what it does here is you can see all of their last visits and how long they spent. Very, very handy to understand what is engaging your content. What content, end of day Friday. Which of your content is engaging your leads the most?
Yeah.
Where are they landing? What are they reading? What are they engaging or relating with?
Yeah, it's a lot like a Lead Formex that was on the market a few years ago, but this seems a lot better built, a lot user friendlier, and
For sure. Looks nice.
I think the technology's moved forward quite a bit, and Drift has a different take on it. They're both really good platforms. I think budget is a consideration, and also just being prepared. Like, you have to, with Drift, when you're doing this, you have to have a plan in place, because at the price point it's at, you don't want to buy that into your organization and have it sit staling for 3 months.
Well, yeah, and one of the features that they mentioned in sort of their product guide is having a salesperson ready to go right as you hit a landing page, which requires that you sort of shift your salespeople to be, have time that they're free in case a prospect reaches out, right?
Yep.
It becomes like a lot more of an organizational change.
Yeah, it's a philosophical change, and some of the B2B sales teams that we work with are very actually excited about this, because it allows them to develop that personal relationship instead of feeling like they're attacking their leads and reaching out, right? So it's a very cool way to develop that relationship. And again, for any kind of a buzz term like ABM, there are real actual tools and real actual tactics that you put in place to make it all happen. It's not simply philosophical, basically, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
Pretty awesome.
Account-based marketing for the win.
Yeah.
It also makes it more fun. Like, B2B marketing has this kind of historical stigma of being super dry and super boring.
Technical and
And it doesn't need to be. There's a lot of companies. Vidyard is a great example of a company that takes. They're quite often in a B2B space. you know, bringing something lighthearted and bringing something fun
Yeah.
to that process
Yeah, for
is
sure.
absolutely key.
Yeah, they got some pretty funny Christmas videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we do.
Yep. Well, Tyler Lassard, he does, who's a friend of mine and peer, does these great videos on LinkedIn where he's absolutely, you know, he's just doing it on his iPhone, but he's talking a lot, and they're great. They're great because when you have someone in a senior position doing that kind of thing, it really personalizes that whole experience. And why would you want to, you know, B2B sales are often they're relationship driven,
Yeah.
right? So if you have a good relationship and you trust that individual in that company, you're that much further ahead. And that's what those videos just hyper personalize that brand.
Yeah, makes it more
people.
approachable.
Yeah. All right.
Oh yeah, let's see this.
It's great. It's probably not. It's not PG, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
That's right. Let's see here. Can't believe Glengarry Glen Ross is 1992.
Wow.
Oh, it's really long. Where is it?
Is it just like, oh look at that ad.
Yeah.
A lead feeder ad, huh?
Oh, I don't think we're on with the.
No, we're not. I think I just covered it for. All right, Nira, this one's for you.
For closers.
Wow. Oh.
Heyo.
F-bomb beep beep. Oh.
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 Hey. Oh. Beep.
Beep. Warning. Oh no, he says the volume isn't coming through.
Yeah, might need to lean
Is
that
it
mic
not?
in a bit closer.
It's not?
It sure should be.
Your name's Levine. You call yourself a salesman, you son of a bitch?
I think we might have to beep a lot of this out.
Beep.
Because the good news is you're fired.
Oh.
The bad news is you've got just 1 week to regain your job, starting with tonight. Starting with tonight's
Yeah,
set.
it's coming through now.
All right, cool.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
This is in the history of cinema. This is actually a really famous scene.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it spoofed a few times.
Yeah, I've seen it spoofed, but I've never seen it, I don't think.
Oh no, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives.
Wow.
A, B,
Third
C.
prize is you're fired. Picture. You laughing now?
Yeah, it probably will be, Andrew. This is the low tech.
Get their names to
Yeah, do we have the
sell them.
YouTube link? I'll link
You
it.
can't close the leads you're given. You can't close shit. You are shit. Hit the bricks, pal,
Ooh.
and beat it, because you
Ooh.
are going out.
Alec.
Leads are weak. Leads are weak.
The Baldwin.
Leads are weak. You are weak. I've been in this business 15
Is this
years.
it?
What's your name? Fuck you. That's my name.
All right, let's just take a little break from that for a
Just
second.
slightly.
Yeah,
This one.
yep, that's the
All right.
Glengarry Glen Ross piece, yeah. Famous
All right.
movie scene.
Well, I will link it in our Facebook here. Oh, I think Andrew already did. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely
Hey.
worth a watch, and the reason that's worth a watch is because it really does dovetail into what sales used to be like and what
Right.
sales
Is,
should be like
yeah.
today, which is building it on personal relation and using this technology to
Yeah.
actually provide a better experience instead of that. But that's an awesome movie. You should watch the whole movie.
Cool.
Al Pacino sits in the bar across the street the entire time, and he's the top seller. And he doesn't do anything but drink the entire movie.
Sounds great.
It's literally a classic. Yeah.
Great.
All right, everybody. Well, we had a goal of half an hour.
Oops.
Didn't happen.
That's all right.
Only over
that's
by
okay.
a little bit.
A little bit.
But
A little bit.
what?
I mean,
24 minutes over.
That's not bad.
That's not bad for
No.
us. No.
That's good.
We just talkative. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks a lot, David.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
David, on his premiere episode. I'm sure there
Yay.
will be many more to come.
Did
For
great.
sure.
Anybody that types up their notes,
Oh.
winning. Look at
Winning.
that.
Look
That's
at- yeah,
that's
he's
awesome.
winning.
Making us look
Oh.
bad.
Cool. He has a
Um,
message here.
Oh yeah. Hillary, let's see. One quick wrap up. I agree that when upper management and senior levels individuals in an organization really put effort into reaching out to both ends of the lattice work within its market. Definitely more personable and really closes in on markets that may be torn between settling and one competitor over its equal. Absolutely. Well
Definitely.
said, Hillary.
Good job, Hillary.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, and when
That makes sense.
totally agree. Yeah, when upper management, I mean, when people in the senior positions
Yep.
show that they're passionate and they care,
It helps.
yeah,
Yeah.
For sure.
for the clients and for the team.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. We had some great comments today, so have a good
Awesome.
weekend,
Yeah, have a good
Yeah.
one, guys.
and we will
Enjoy
see
the
you
sun.
Enjoy.
next Friday.
Next time. See ya.
Bye-bye.